3D. This really interesting thing, you've mentioned it, the veil, and let's label the veil of forgetfulness. It's really interesting because, and I don't want to answer your answer for you, but it blew me away following your work that we have had previous versions of 3D where potentially we haven't had the veil of forgetfulness, and there are certain things that it affords us, and I think it's really important to understand that. And again, I ask long questions, but pardon me for just 1 second. I have to say this particular insight, which I'm inviting you to share with us, has been so healing for me to recognize without, just taking an interesting turn in the conversation. My best friend's, one of my best friend's partner took her life about 2 years ago, and that was really heavy to sit with, just for everyone in our local community. But nonetheless, like hearing you share about the veil of forgetfulness, something shifted for me profoundly in that space, brother. So just wanted to honor you for that teaching and sharing, and just invite you to share on.
I'm blessed to hear it, man. That's why I love the work that I do, because to me, the Law of One gave me the same kind of satisfying answers that my soul was longing for in my 20s when I was really depressed. I didn't understand the nature of life, the universe. Why am I here? Why would God put me through such a tormenting escape room like this? This isn't fair, blah, blah, blah. And the Law of One was just like, hey, buddy, come sit on my lap. Let me tell you about the universe you live in. Like, here's how it really works and why it works this way. And it was almost like reading it, Amrit. It was like reading it, and my soul was protesting all of the victim stories about what's not fair. But why did I get not to remember my past lives? It's so unfair. Like, why do you block our memory? And the Law of One was like, well, let me tell you why we do that, and explain to me why it works that way. And I'm like, oh shit, that's actually a really genius design. Like, I just never saw it that way. And this is why I love the Law of One, is because a deep conviction in my heart, and one that I teach on every day, is that we live in a perfect universe. We already live in the kingdom of heaven. We live in the most perfect possible universe that could ever exist. Like, try swallowing that pill for a minute, right? And not only that, you are a perfect being living in a perfect universe right now already. You're not getting to be, you're not arriving, you're already a perfect being, and Ra stresses that. But so it's helpful to see and understand why it's a perfect universe. Because people will say, well, come on, that's BS. There's no way it's a perfect universe, because really immoral things happen, right? Really unjust things. People die, people are killed. That's not fair. Clearly, we're not living in a perfect universe. But that's actually evidence for why it is a perfect universe. Because rule number one, none of us would argue with this. You can't have a perfect universe if the beings living in the universe have no free will to do what they want to do. And forget about what free will does or doesn't exist. Like, forget that argument for a minute. We at least would want the feeling or appearance like we have free will. None of us want to be an automaton on a railroad track just following orders, right? No one would say that's a perfect universe. So free will is paramount. Well, to get free will, you have to allow the space for people to make mistakes and harm others and violate the law of one. And so the reason the universe is perfect is because the Creator has given all beings the free will to do whatever they want. And yeah, you can absolutely violate universal laws. You can. You have the free will. But what you don't have is the free will to avoid the consequences of violating those laws. And that's why it's perfect. And so we see a murderer murder someone and say, what a huge mistake the universe made. That shouldn't have happened, etc., etc. But what we don't see are the universal laws back of that action that are accumulating around the person who did the murder. The person who gets murdered, number one, most likely entered a soul contract where they chose to experience being murdered to make up for something in their past lives that they did. That's a huge reason why a lot of souls choose that experience is, hey, I killed somebody in my past life. To really alleviate that karma, I need to know what it feels like so I can have forgiveness for myself, right? Or for the other. So they'll choose stuff, but also it gives the soul who was murdered a huge chance to massively polarize their consciousness if their soul can forgive their murderer, either during or after the fact. They gain a lot of polarity in consciousness. So The person who murders actually offers the murdered person a huge gift to their soul to make a quantum leap in growth if they use the catalyst correctly. And secondly, the person who does the murder creates an enormous amount of negative karma that they then have to alleviate. And so nobody gets off scot-free in this universe. Every single action is recorded by the universe, and you're going to get your karma at some point. If it doesn't seem like you get it in this life, then baby, you're going to get it in the next one. And if we know that, I think that right there kind of settles the matter for most people of, okay, I can rock with that. We're all eternal. We never really die. We just keep reincarnating forever. So death is no longer such a big deal. Although we want to honor the lifetime of everyone, of course, it doesn't mean we should just go kill everyone because everyone's eternal. It's like, no, there's a very sacred thing happening here where souls are learning what God is like. And so we should honor that process of learning and be of service to it even. And if we do harm to somebody, we didn't kill them. They're eternal. That's true. But you got to bear a huge consequence now. You're going to have some tough lifetimes ahead of you. So like when you know that doing harm to anyone always comes back on you, like to attack another is really to attack myself, then it puts the impetus on everyone to be kind and righteous, right? So the burden of proof is always on you in this universe. So that's also why it's perfect. But to get further into this, the veil of forgetting is super important because when a soul incarnates into a third density planet like ours, again, the whole purpose is that choosing. Every soul needs to make a choice. Which polarity do you want to be for the rest of your evolution, essentially? And so that choice has to be very authentic and organic. The Creator does not want the choosing to be infringed upon in any way. And so if we could remember our past lives, and this was what once happened, by the way, maybe many universes ago, I don't know, but in the past, sometime, there were third density planets without a veil. And what happened is everybody could remember their past lives and every single mistake they made and every single consequence they suffered for those mistakes. And so basically, moral choices only happen out of fear of repeating the consequences. And they don't happen out of a genuine change of the heart of, I don't want to not harm people because I'm afraid of the consequences. I want to not harm people because I love them and I see them as one with me, right? That's evolution. And so to get that organic evolution, the Logos has to cover the veil over our eyes so we don't remember our past lives, so we don't get all the information of the mistakes I've made to bias my decisions, right? The source wants your heart chakra to turn on, right? And genuinely be active so you can graduate. And not just like, well, I don't want to suffer anymore, so let me just do no harm. But like, I don't see these people as one with me. I'm not truly loving everyone I see. So it's not a real transformation if you're just afraid of repeating past karma. So the veil is important for that reason because it ensures that everybody gets a fully organic choice here, where you just get to deal with and grapple with this realm, and that's it. Just the dark and the light in this realm. You're going to taste the darkness, you're going to taste the light over and over and over for probably dozens of lifetimes until your soul finally says, you know what? I choose the light. I enjoy the light, and I'm willing to do what it takes to become like the light. Or perhaps I like the darkness. I want to be more like the darkness. Either way, you keep getting spit back onto this planet until you choose a polarity. And you know, Amrit, because I grew up Christian, I find it interesting that there's a passage where Jesus said, I wish that you were either hot or cold, and I would drink you. But because you are lukewarm, I will spit you out of my mouth. Jesus said that. And I'm like, that's definitely an allusion to the science of graduation, that every soul has to be either hot or cold. But if you're lukewarm, Ra calls that the sinkhole of indifference. It's like you haven't really chosen the light, you haven't really chosen the darkness, you're just waffling back and forth, lifetime after lifetime, in the cesspool of suffering over and over. It's like that suffering we experience here in the human realm is meant to drive us to one or the other polarity. Because you stop suffering when you choose a polarity. We all know why you stop suffering when you choose the positive polarity, because you love everything, you heal everything, it's all God, right? But you also stop suffering to a large extent when you graduate to the negative polarity, because what the negative being does is the opposite of the positive. Versus instead of turning the heart chakra on, they try to shut it completely off. So the negative being tries to become completely dead to the universe, to where they feel no compassion, no empathy at all for anybody. Only the love of self, and everyone else in this universe is just a pawn on my chessboard. No compassion, nothing. And so you don't suffer anymore because you have nobody to suffer over. You don't care about anyone, you don't care about anything. They still struggle with, or not struggle with, but they experience great anger, the negative polarity does, because anger is like a very weaponizable energy to the negative polarity. But it's not an anger that's suffering. It's an anger they're using to control and to conquer. So really, there's not egoic suffering like we experience in this realm on the negative or the positive polarity. It's literally a result of not having chosen a polarity yet.
Yeah, the depth at which the free will is something that is beyond sacred. It's like this sort of linchpin of the entire experience that then sort of facilitates our evolution.
It is the linchpin. Well said.
Yeah, and then that is just, okay, at this particular juncture, we're talking about negative and positive, and that can mean so many things, and it can, just expand and expand and expand and expand. And yet, there's a big reason why you're on the podcast. Our values are oneness, growth, and service. And
yes,
so with having you here, the opportunity to sort of, well, I'll frame the question this way. Maybe we can start a little bit around Neem Karoli Baba and what, his work means to you, and just sort of the positive and the negative from that place. Yeah.
Neem Karoli Baba, man, my favorite person to talk about. Yeah, so the terms positive and negative, first of all, are not value judgments on like positive good, negative bad. It's positive refers to that which is radiating, expanding, right? Outward moving. And negative refers to that which is contracting, absorbing, magnetic. So you have positive electro, negative magnetism, right? Those are the two polarities. So the Ra calls the polarities the service to others path and the service to self path, because the positive negative polarity, that's like the chemistry way of describing, the scientific way of describing the polarities. The philosophical way of describing the polarities is service to others or service to self. And that can also be confusing for some people, because they're like, well, it can't be positive to just always serve others and never serve yourself, can it? And of course not, right? The service to others path doesn't mean you don't serve yourself and only serve others. It means your modus operandi is always to be of service to others, because as I bless others, I bless myself. As I serve others, I serve myself. By offering freedom, I am free. By withholding freedom, I am bound. So I serve others as my way of being. But yes, I must take care of myself to be of service. If I'm sick and overweight and depressed and destitute, I can't serve anybody. So you always have to serve yourself. And Ra says, technically, all service is service to self. Because when you bless somebody else, like on the positive polarity, giving and receiving are always simultaneous. So when I do something kind for you, Amrit, I also gain positive polarity myself. Right? So I gain spiritual charge, evolution, by serving you. So it's not like you win and I lose when I serve you. It's when I serve you, you win and I win. We all win together on the positive polarity. On the negative polarity, it's the opposite, right? You serve yourself at the cost of everybody else. And in fact, the negative polarity cannot become more negative unless their action benefits themselves at the cost of someone else. Any action which is mutually beneficial would not be polarizing to the negative. It has to be all